Hello, my fellow Americans. I'm Steve Saylor. I'm running for the office of president, and I'm the only candidate who's talking about getting out of our current socioeconomic system, which, as I will explain, is at the root of all our problems today. And we'll be talking about new systems that can solve these problems if they are designed to do so. But right now, we have to get on the same page, and this is really important because everyone needs to understand how our economic system actually works against us in so many ways, in ways that go unnoticed by most of us because this is all we've known and we just accept it. So let's try to take an objective look at just a few of the ways this affects us. For example, we know that infinite growth is unsustainable on a finite planet, but our market economy requires this consumption cycle where we need to sell the same products again and again. So planned obsolescence is built right into this system where our products will break down in a certain amount of time so we can sell them again and throw away the old ones into the landfill. This is crazy. A system that rewards wasting our resources, this would be the opposite of sustainable. Yes, good for business, bad for people and the planet. Or think about energy systems. We have the clean, renewable options now, but when you get these automated systems set up, there are very few jobs required. We can't have that in the market system, where we need this labor for income model, and everyone has to have some kind of job, even if it's not relevant to what people really need. But that's what keeps the money circulating to fuel the consumption cycle. And these new energy systems can produce what is essentially free energy. Again, we can't have that in this market system, which can't deal with anything being free or abundant. No, this system needs scarcity to function. And everything has to have a price attached. Everything becomes a commodity, even you, maybe. But now, with the dirty fossil fuel industries, lots of money to be made there, lots of jobs, good for business and economic growth, terrible for our health and the environment. And you can see this in almost every industry. Companies that make pesticides need to keep the profits growing, and we end up spraying our food with more and more chemicals when it's not necessary in many cases. But more chemicals on our food and in the soil, that's good for business, bad for people and the planet. Pharmaceutical companies, well, we've heard from the whistleblowers in this industry how their business plan is to treat the disease, not cure it. So you'll have to keep taking their pills day after day. Of course, that's their business plan. What else would you expect in this game we've made up? And the side effects of these pills can be horrible, which will then require more pills to treat those. Hey, good for business, bad for us. And this applies to everything in the health industry. The more sickness, the more jobs to stimulate the economy. Do you see what's going on here? That our system needs problems to create more jobs, more growth? Solving problems will, in most cases, eliminate jobs. So the incentive here is not to solve these problems, but to keep them going. For instance, we used to drink water right out of the tap, but the pollution that our growth economy creates got into the water. That's a huge problem, which created a whole new industry. Bottled water, and talk about wasting energy, all the fuel that's burned to transport this water hundreds of miles. But if we acted responsibly, if we took care of our resources and could drink clean water from the tap again, hundreds of companies would be out of business. Thousands of jobs disappear in the market system. But in reality, in the real world, these are jobs we don't want, that we shouldn't need. If the incentive was to solve problems instead of create them. And how about inequality? There's been a dramatic increase there, which is what you'd expect at this stage of the monopoly game. And you know how that game ends, right? When somebody has all the properties and all the money and everybody else is going bankrupt. Yeah, that's about where we are now. And this growing inequality leads to an increase in violence and domestic abuse and many other public health issues, like crime. Yeah, of course it does. With more and more people struggling to survive, this is what we should expect. And it's bad for all of us. But crime pays, doesn't it? With more jobs in law enforcement and the surveillance state, and in the courts, lawyers, judges, clerks, and on. Billions of dollars to be made from all the jobs servicing the criminal justice system. More jobs we shouldn't want and wouldn't need if our system was working for the people rather than against. And on that subject, the prison industry, now this is truly shameful, how we've let this become privatized so corporations can profit from it. Any decent, humane social system should be doing everything it can to keep its people out of prison. But think about this, now the incentive is to put more people in prison and use these people for slave labor to profit the shareholders. How sick is that? We can't let this go on. This is terrible for our people and our society. Good for business. And the last one I'll mention, and the ultimate example of what this system produces, is war. And you hear it said that war is good for the economy. Why would we allow this? It's the worst thing we can do to ourselves and each other, but it's the best thing for economic growth. The money rolls into the military, their contractors make billions, and the bankers live for this. Countries need loans to fight these wars, and the money changers are ready to create more money out of nothing and loan it with interest to anybody who wants to fight. And there's a saying, all wars are bankers' wars, and it's true. They rake in the profits while thousands or hundreds of thousands of innocent people are being killed and soldiers being subjected to horrendous acts that will haunt them long after, that no one should have to endure. And the truth is, no one has to anymore. These wars are not necessary. They are wars for profit and empire games, and they have to stop. But as long as the system is in place and the incentives are strong, the wars will continue. Anyway, these are just a few examples of how our system works against us in exactly the opposite way a social system should be working. And once you get a good look at what is really going on here, you can't help but see how this system is just so incredibly unsustainable and inherently destructive to people and the planet. And we can't just shrug it off and say, well, that's the way it is, and it's the best we can do. No, we can do away with these problems if we design our new system with that in mind in ways that were not possible until now. And it's the technology, that's the difference, that's the game changer here.